Howdy, homies. That's how my son would wave when he was about 1. He, see us waving like this, and so from his point of view anyway. Vintage Celestion greenbacks on the bench. The most famed speaker in all of rock and roll. These are roller labeled because they're from 1972, if you can read that date code. But they are indeed Pulsonic cones with the stamp, which is over here on this one in a tricky little spot. But there it is, the 1023 stamp. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe I could show it here. It's right here in there where that terminal connects. Probably show you better on another one, but the stuff that rock legends are made of. So I just bought all 4 of these, and they were a really nice deal. Unfortunately, the seller failed to mention that 2 of them have been repaired. One of them to the point of destruction. So that story hasn't ended yet. I'm in talks with the seller, and we're seeing what to do. So I just this evening sent him some video and photos and description, and he's got really good feedback, which is like the only reason I bought him, because his photos are kind of Craigslisty, sort of blurry. Perrier, and his photos did not show the repairs, which is up for debate if that's shady or accidental or coincidental. However, let's have a look at them. First, this one. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are minor repairs to the surround, and I'm not terribly concerned about them, other than there's a nice shot of the decal, that they weren't disclosed. That is the thing. That's like selling anything used or new. 101 first day in class, highlight the flaws in the photos and the description, not hide them and fail to mention them. This one is the more concerning one. If you look here, you'll see a repair across the surround, the moving part of the surround, which appears to be Elmer's glue in both appearance and texture, which people do on speakers. Not that they should, but they do. However, not on a moving part of the cone. Now, technically all parts of the cone are moving, and that's why you shouldn't do it, because this stuff flexes even like that as it moves. But, people do them for little punctures here. That may not be a problem. The speaker may be okay. Probably won't be ideal, but it may be okay. This has ruined the speaker. And you can also see a piece of cork replaced here and not done very clean. I don't know if you can see when I move that, but the glued part stays put and the rest of the speaker flexes. And if you have really keen eyes, or at least in person, you can see that along here, the paper is separated from the glue, so it's ripped underneath. And then somewhere around in this area, the glued portion has split in half into 2. So you've got the 2 pieces of glue material vibrating up against each other. So this just buzzes and hums at all frequencies, but mostly in the bass and in the mids. And we test that with a WaveTech signal generator or a digital one. Run through this big Crown power amp here. So it's very clean. I tried both. Either of those actually have enough power to drive the speaker at like 5 watts. So I tried both direct. I tried both through the amp. And I mean, I knew as soon as I did it, because I'm very familiar with these instruments. But I was just hopeful that, it's always good to double check anything before you voice a complaint to a seller anyway. You want to really know for sure that you're correct about what you're saying. So I don't have, you know, a full matching set with these. Here, this one has a clean date code. Can you see that? Maybe I'll show it here. There we go. It's upside down. There you go. Wait, that's upside down. I don't know what I'm doing here. Also on these speakers, 3 of these are loose. One of them really bad. I think it's that one. Those are they're eyelets holding those on, and these are 4-bon. It's actually the same stuff as you can see here. Fender used for pickups in the 60s because it's gray. I mean, you know, this is new, so it's lighter gray, but and it's riveted in. Now I'm going to try to find a rivet tool because I have dies for a press to do these. Eyelets is what they're called. But the problem is you've got to get it from both sides. And there's really no room to do that. You need a special tool. Now, those probably went on before the cone, in which case, you know, you can come at it from the front through where the cone is now, and it'd be no problem. They make a version of the tool that it sort of looks like pliers, and they're a little bit bigger. More like, they look kind of like vice grips, actually. So I don't know that I'll be able to fix that the proper way because there's no room to put a die behind it and hammer on it, and I don't think I can get one of those plier type tools in there. So it might end up being maybe like a little bit of a shim of some paper material soaked in glue to expand it and tighten it up. I'll try to make it invisible. I don't want to do that though. You know, it's not what I paid for. And the price is good anyway. You know, even considering the minor problems, the price is good. This glue repair just makes this a worthless speaker because this now needs to be reconed. I'm almost certain. There's a chance that I can get that off with water if it is Elmer's glue, or with a solvent of some sort if it's something else. But these cones are so fragile. I've worked on them and done that type of stuff before, and when they absorb water or moisture, acetone, whatever, they almost just disintegrate. They get so soft, and the internal tensions that were there kind of release, and they expand, and they don't dry right. So it's really iffy. You know, the cure to the glue, if it works, is also a cancer to the paper. So it's almost certainly toast. I'm not going to mess with it yet because I'm waiting to hear back from the seller. But if you know, if he just offers me a refund, and then I'll try because it's worthless now. Once you recone these, the sound is gone. Reconed vintage greenbacks, in my experienced opinion, lose the sound. The sound is in the cone. The Heritage version, the EVH version, the G12M UK version, I have those and more. And that's what these end up sounding like. They sound like the new ones. And because they are. The recone puts the new cone and the new voice coil and former in there. The frame and the magnet are not a large part of the sound of these vintage speakers, unfortunately. So once you account for, say, shipping it to Weber or your reconing person of choice and back, and the cost of the recone, at that point you've spent more on the recone and the shipping than what you'll get selling it for. Plus I already paid for the speaker. So we'll just see what happens. If the seller wants me to send it back, then definitely I will. Not the other two that are in good shape. I'm not sending those back. But if he wants to send that one back for partial, I will. Stuff doesn't really matter. Not to you. Happens to be that I'm the kind of guy that has a 5th 1972 Rolla labeled Celestion. So this one has a minor repair in it too, but it actually sounds great. This is one of my better sounding ones. I have a number of these, so I don't care about that. There's something interesting about this one as well. I'll show you on this camera. You'll notice that the bass resonance there says 55 hertz. Whereas on these, the bass resonance correctly says 75 hertz. 55 hertz on a G12M is an unusual speaker. For Marshalls at least. They might have had more use in PAs, not Marshall PAs. Maybe in other amps too. I think Paul Kossoff used G12M medium magnet, which is what these are, 55 hertz bass resonance speakers. I don't think he used the T1281s, which are the H magnet 55 hertz, which is, you usually see this together, H magnet and 55 hertz. And those are nice too, but they sound very different. However, you'll notice on this one, if I can show it here, it is not a 55 hertz speaker. It was just mislabeled. That is absolutely clear as day, a 102.3 cone, which is the Pulsonic 75 hertz cone. Just the same as these. So I have a match. It is also 1972. The month is 3 months off, but the year's the same. It'll do. But then I only have one more of those. And what do you do with one speaker? I mean, you could put it in a deluxe reverb, I guess. But I don't want a greenback in there. I like the C12N that's in it. So I'm on the hunt for another one or another 3. Fill out another cabinet. The reason I'd be happy with 2 is because I have a cab that's got 2 JBL D120Fs on the top. And at the moment, it's got a Heritage G12M on one side of the bottom and an EVH G12M on the other side of the bottom, which I think even Celestion themselves has flipped back and forth on if they are or are not the same speaker other than the decal. There's a lot of speculation about that online. I have several of each, and I've already done the electrical measurements on them, and there's more difference among ones of the same type than there is across from one to another. So electrically, I'm going to say that they're the same. Impedance, capacitance, AC reactance, resistance, Gauss of the speaker. I haven't done the sound test yet. That's why they're in that cabinet. That's the next speaker tracking project that I'm doing, is those, which will be part of my 12-inch speaker comparison. So anyway, once I'm done tracking those, I'd like to put the original greenbacks in there to, have a more authentic greenback and D120 cab to get the true vintage sounds. I think that's it. Abrupt ending. I don't have much else to say about that. What else is around here? I'll show you some cool stuff while we're talking. Oh, look at this. I got a tray of pickups. This is how I tend to build them now, in batches of 33. 11 per row there, 3 rows. Within that winder's dozen, or whatever you want to call it, that I just showed you, there are a handful of new old stock wire pickups. You want to see them? Look at that. TJ, that's one of yours, if you're watching this. Just gotta get the decals on that. Now, are they really new old stock wire? Am I just pulling your leg? No, they really indeed are a new old stock wire. That, my friends, is the real deal right there. And other than what I just showed you, I only have a few more spools at the moment. That stuff is dwindling. Used to be, I had nearly a shelf of it. So, get them while you can, because I'm getting very busy. I'm taking on more work with guitars, guitar building, amps, of course the pickups, growing the operation, and I'm not taking on any more help than I already have right now, and we're not moving into a bigger spot yet. There's reasons why that I can't do that yet. So if you're interested in those new old stock wire pickups again, because right now I don't have the time to spend hunting that wire down. It takes a considerable amount of time to do that. Most of what I buy, I can't use. For every 10 spools I buy, I get 1, maybe 2, if I'm lucky, that are in suitable condition for winding coils. They haven't been sitting on a shelf rusting and rotting for years, which is usually the case. They are actually the gauge of wire that I need. They are actually the gauge of wire that they were sold as, because industrial surplus places don't really know. They might have some digital calipers that they can measure the outside insulation with on the outside turn of the wire, which is the most exposed and damaged that there is and full of crud and who knows what. Doubtful that they have micrometers, nor that they're going to chemically strip insulation. It just doesn't happen. It never once happened. Wire manufacturers, they don't have that stuff. It's already sold out long ago, and they all have my number if they do find it. So I don't have the resource of time to put into hunting it down right now. And I, of course, have to keep some for my vintage pickup repairs. Vintage pickup repairs. Thought I might have something neat sitting right here to show you. I'm afraid I don't. I bet I do. Where is it? You guys know what that is? We use this camera. I think this was a 1950. 1950 to 1953 for sure. Fender Champion lap steel pickup. So the same as a Blackguard Tele, only the shape of this base plate is a little bit different. They cut the corners off on these when Fender started building Telecasters, because the pickup is angled, and so you see if your route for your bridge is sitting like this, and you angle it, then your corner there is in the way, and you can't angle it in the route. So that's why the Tele bridge pickup has a 3-screw adjustable height configuration in a sort of triangle shape, but otherwise they're the same as this. All they have a metallic base plate too, and you can put a metallic base plate on those, and I do it all the time. Here, this is here's a 60s Tele bridge. Michael, these are both yours if you're watching. You probably caught on to that already. So, see, that's really the only difference. Now, because this is a later pickup, they also have raised and staggered pole pieces, a gray base plate. This one has no wax on the string. If it had wax, it would be clear though. So this is at no wax, and the cloth leads, it's got to be like 67. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think that's a fairly accurate guess, 67 or 68 on that. Okay, that must be it at this point. All right. I'm still taking questions. I've collected a lot, so it's going to be more than one sit down and answer your pickup questions video that I'll have to shoot. It'll definitely be at least 2. It probably will be more than that. And I'll start doing that soon. It's been extremely busy here. I've been behind. I'm sorry to everyone who's been waiting on stuff. As you can see, my plate is full of everything right now. It's hard to even get to some of the machines sometimes because there's work piled on top. It's it's a blessing, and it's also difficult sometimes. So please bear with me, and thank you for those who have. But I will do the video soon. So if you have questions about pickups, PAFs, guitar and amp building, vintage restorations of amplifiers, or guitars or instruments of any sort, I will do my best to answer them to the best of my ability. And you can send those to info@rewindelectric.com. Alrighty, thank you and have a great night.